So far, 2023, how's the real estate market doing? It's the real estate show. Welcome to the Real Estate Show. My name is Rick Naples. I'm the owner-broker of Zone Realty, LLC. You zone your home with an office in Plainville, Connecticut. I'm filming today from my home in my little studio office, and I'm looking back at this first part of 2023. How are we doing so far? You know, there's just a ton of articles that are out there that are talking about the predictions of how 2023 is going to go. What's going to happen in the housing market? What's going on with, houses that are coming onto the market? How fast are they selling? What are the prices? What's going on with mortgage rates? How is the buyer and the seller navigating through this year in the real estate market? Well, some of these articles talk about how the inventories are supposed to stabilize and they're going to start to increase. Now, we did see a bump with the number of houses that came on the market in 2023 earlier because of the normal spring, summer selling season. A lot of folks like to put their house on the market because this is the time when it works for a lot of people in their just life journey to put their house on the market and get it sold and close during the warmer weather. For the buyers, this timing always works out well because they can time it where if they have children in school or they have a life situation that requires a big change, it's more convenient to do it during this time of year than it is towards the fall or the winter time of year. But how does it look overall? How are we actually doing? Statistics that are out there are all over the board. It is showing that, like I said, there are more houses on the market. And the turn time, in other words, the time a house comes on the market to the time it sells, is starting to become more realistic or more average. In the past, it took a while to get houses sold. Then we saw a period of time where a house would come on the market and it'd be sold almost immediately. Remember those days when everybody was competing for the few houses that were on the market and we saw bidding wars going on? We're at that point now in 2023 where we're seeing not so much as far as bidding wars are concerned. And there's a big kind of a cautiousness out there amongst the buyers as to whether or not houses are affordable. One thing we've known that we've seen happen is we've seen house prices go up. One of the articles points out that house prices here in Connecticut have averaged increasing by about 4%. Well, I've seen more. I've seen some houses go up as much as 10% in value. But be that as it may, mortgage prices have also increased. Now, I'm filming this show right after the Fed had announced another quarter point bump in the interest rate. This was like the 10th or maybe the 11th bump that they've done to kind of slow down inflation. And that has affected the mortgage rates. The banks are trying to hold the mortgage rates as best they can. I even read an article just recently that stated that banks in some cases are actually losing money on mortgages, the new mortgages that they're putting out there, because of the cost of their funds. Buyers are very cautious, as I said, because can they afford a house? We've seen the prices of houses go up. We've seen the mortgage rates go up. And that's all going to equivalent to where the mortgage payment's going to be. And if you have a certain budget of what you feel you're comfortable in affording per month, the way things are structured, it might be a little bit tight. It might be a little bit more difficult. And don't forget, again, a little bit of advice here, when you're looking at a mortgage payment, that's not just the only expense you're going to have on a house. A house comes along with a lot more expenses. Now, if you're a seasoned buyer or you're someone who lives in a house for a while, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, the fuel costs, the maintenance costs, the just general costs of living in a house, those all add up over time, and they add to what your expense is going to be every single month. I was told a number of years ago by a mentor of mine that when you were looking to purchase a home and they would give you what your mortgage payment was going to be, if you can afford double that amount, then you can live in that house. Now, I don't know about that because I've seen people live pretty close to their paychecks. I've seen the percentage of what is used as income for housing expenses increase over the years, and people seem to make ends meet. They always seem to find a way to do it, even in some cases where a lot of folks have taken a little side job just to try to get extra money coming in so they can afford where they live. We've seen a lot of people who are renting just pretty much getting disgusted with the rent prices out there, right? I mean, rents have really gone up over this last year or two. A lot of folks that are renting are looking to see whether or not they can purchase a home because in some cases, the mortgage payment might be lower than what their rent payment is. So we're seeing some shifting going on. We're also hearing a lot of talk about the shifting of the population. We know that in most states here in the United States, we're seeing the population age, and we're seeing more and more folks as they get older wanting to scale down on the size of their homes. And the problem is the upcoming generations, the younger generations that are in that age range to purchase a home, they're not interested in big, expensive homes. They want moderately sized homes that are easy to manage and easy to afford. So we're seeing kind of a little bit of a change as far as the shift is concerned and what people's wants are. I'm going to look at this little presentation with you, and when I come back, I'm going to talk about a practice I call wants and needs. I just wanted to take a portion of this show to talk about the idea of wants and needs. What you want is not necessarily what you need. That's good advice. And when it comes to shopping for a home, those are the kinds of things you have to consider. Now, your realtor is going to sit down with you in a buyer interview, and they're going to talk about what you're looking for a home. What specific types of things? And there's the typical things, the area you want to be in, if you have children, the school system, those kinds of things. But also, what in the house you need. Do you need 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms? Do you need 1 bath, 2 baths, a bath and a half? Do you want a 2-car garage, a single-car garage? Would you prefer that garage is attached to the house or separate from the house? How much yard do you want? That's a conversation a lot of people forget to have, is the yard. Some people like a lot of land around them because they want privacy. But don't forget, the more land you have, the more maintenance is going to be required. I mean, I've seen people buy 2-acre lots of land that are all cleared, and they have an acre and a half to mow every single week, and that takes a lot of time. So unless you're going to hire a professional landscaper, you've got to kind of factor in that time. It's not uncommon to be driving home after dark and to see somebody out there on their lawn tractor mowing their lawn with their headlights on here in New England. It happens. But anyways, wants and needs. So one of the things to do is kind of what I guess you could call the old pros and cons, or the Ben Franklin type pad. You get a piece of paper, you draw a line down the middle of it, and on one side you go over what you want in a home, and on the other side you draw what you need in a home. And you look at those two columns and you see what matches and what doesn't match it, and what you might be able to trade. In other words, perhaps if you could find a home in the right area, the right price range, it has everything that you need, but the garage is separate, it's not attached. Well, maybe that might work for you. Or perhaps it doesn't have a garage, but it's got enough room to build a garage in the future. Well, maybe that will work for you. Or perhaps the garage is more important than the extra bathroom. Again, you got to look at all these different things, your wants as opposed to your needs. Sometimes you're lucky and you find that your wants and needs match up, and you find a home that matches everything that you could want and everything that you can need. But let's be realistic, that sometimes doesn't work out. Let's take a quick look at this presentation of wants and needs, and I'll be back to talk a little bit more about this year, 2023. I began the show talking about this year and what is going on and how are we doing so far since the beginning of the year through this mid part of the year of this particular time. And I was pointing out that there's a bunch of different articles that are out there on the internet. Just to share some of the titles. What will Connecticut real estate market hold in 2023? Here's another article, the housing market predictions. 6 experts weigh in on the real estate outlook in 2023. Here's another article, 2023 real estate forecast of the market, a return to normalcy. One of the other articles that I printed out was the housing market predictions for 2023, and so on and so forth. I mean, just article after article. When will home prices be affordable again in 2023? And it just goes on and on and on. And like with anything that you research, you find that when you read certain articles on the internet concerning the housing market, everybody weighs in. Everybody has an opinion. Well, the best opinions, quite honestly, are those that are the people that are on the ground, the people that are actually in the market experiencing it. And that, of course, are realtors. When you're talking to a realtor who's out there actively looking at houses with their buyers, actively listing houses with their sellers, they have an inside track of what the market truly is doing, especially within the local area that they may specialize in. So a lot of times when you're looking to either buy a house or sell a house, it just works out best to talk to a professional, to talk to a realtor. Now, are realtors the end-all of the real estate market? I mean, are they the most knowledgeable people out there? Well, sometimes there's a little bit of an argument about that. You know, they know how to do the transaction, they know how to deal with people, they know how to negotiate the deal, and so on and so forth. but they're not economists. Realtors cannot predict the future. In other words, one of the questions that I was asked a number of years ago by a buyer of mine was, hey Rick, do you think if I buy this house today, will it be worth more money tomorrow when I sell it? Well, the answer is statistically, houses do go up in value, but as we've seen, you can't really predict how much and you can't predict how fast. There are a lot of different economic factors that are going to affect how the real estate market plays out. Is a home a good investment to make? Well, yes, it is. But it depends on the house that you buy and what you put into it. You know, I've seen a lot of people buy very nice homes and then they live in it and they just kind of wear the house down, and they're lucky to basically sell the home for what they bought it for. I've seen other people buy fixer-uppers, do a great job in modernizing the house and bringing it up to date, and then when they put it on the market, they actually turn a little bit of a profit. So there's all kinds of different situations. But what I was mentioning earlier is you always have to look at your wants and your needs, because sometimes you may buy a house that doesn't actually fit what you want, but you can turn it into something that you need. Now let's talk about this market here, the market that's in the area that I represent. I mean, what's going on? Well, as I said at the earlier part of the show, we've seen more houses come on the market. We've seen the prices of houses, although they're high, start to steady out. We're not seeing such huge increases, but prices on homes have gone up. Mortgage rates, well, it looks like we might steady out for a while. So there's an opportunity time to really look at those numbers to see if those numbers are going to work as far as a mortgage payment is concerned. When you're looking to buy or sell, you have to remember that it's not just you, the seller, with the buyer, or you, the buyer, and the seller. There's a lot of other people that are involved in the transaction. And anywhere along that transaction, you can have bumps in the road. You can have problems that go on. So you need to have the professionals in place to help navigate you through that whole transaction. This year especially, when houses come on the market, you want to make sure as a buyer that it's something that you want or something that you need and that you can afford it. So you need to do all your pre-work. In other words, get a pre-qualification or pre-approval. Be ready to put a mortgage in place. One of the things that sellers are looking for, and this is advice to the buyers, is they're looking for reasonable time when it comes to close on the house. They're not looking for somebody to make an offer on their house that's acceptable to them, but they don't want to close for 4 or 5 months. That's not going to work in some situations. Now, how long does it take from the time an offer comes in, Mr. Seller, to the time you're actually closing and moving out of the house? Well, that's where the word negotiable comes in. Usually in the old days, we would say it would take anywhere up to about 45 to 50 days from the time the contract was signed to the time the contract gets into the attorney's office and it closes. And that's because of the number of things that have to happen along the way. I mean, if a bank's going to put a mortgage on a house, they got to send an appraiser out, and you're kind of got to work with that appraiser's schedule. They've got to do their report to show the bank the house has the value that's worth putting that mortgage on it. You have to have the mortgage officer that's involved that has to do all that, paperwork to make sure you're qualified for the mortgage. Look at your income, look at your credit, and all the different factors that go involved. You've got realtors that are involved, one representing the buyer, one representing the seller. Attorneys that get involved, the attorney's paralegal that gets involved. Home inspectors that get involved, or maybe tradespeople that have to get involved to do certain repairs for the seller in order to close to the buyer's satisfaction. There's a lot that's involved. Have we seen closings in shorter period of time? Of course. We've seen some people come in and they're cash buyers. They're going to buy the house cash, as is, no questions asked. And I can do a whole show on that term. As is, what is an as is purchase. But we'll save that for later. But cash buyers can come in, offer cash for the house, not do an inspection, not worry about an appraisal, and thus the time to close can be a lot faster. But in the normal transaction, usually a buyer needs a mortgage in order to buy the house, so you have to go through those transaction steps in order to get there. Getting back to these articles, a lot of these articles are stating that 2023 through 2024 might be the years where the housing market will start to get back to normal. This basically means that the market won't be as crazy as it's been in the past. We won't see huge competition out there where we see overbidding for houses that come on the market. I want to say that with cautious too, because I just recently experienced a home that was put on the market and there was a bidding war on it because this house had everything anyone could want. It was in a location that was beautiful. It was on a nice piece of land in a high demand area, and a lot of buyers were attracted to it, and it ended up selling for far over the asking price. That will still happen on some homes, but in most cases, usually you're going to find the seller now in a position where they might negotiate a little bit on their price. We're seeing the incentives come back. In other words, a seller being willing to do repairs, being willing to help with the closing costs on a home, and so on and so forth. Where before it was, here's my price, give me my price, don't talk to me unless it's my price, or over. We're seeing that start to soften a little bit. Is it still possible in 2023 for a buyer and a seller to come to terms, for the buyer to have his wants and needs met, and a seller get the price that they're looking for in a fair market situation? Yes, it is. 2023 can be a year where buyers and sellers may find themselves getting together more to make transactions happen. And don't forget, the realtors out there are going to help everything come together as smoothly as possible. My name is Rick Naples, and this has been The Real Estate Show. I thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.
Sometimes life just happens. Don't worry. Farmington Motorsports will get you back on the road and at a fair price. From towing to tires, emissions to transmissions.
Our ASC certified techs do it all.
Farmington Motorsports is a family-run business. We're a Napa Auto Center and AAA approved. We work on all makes and models from preventative maintenance to major repairs.
And every repair is backed by our 2-year, 24,000-mile nationwide warranty.
When life happens to you, don't worry. Farmington Motorsports.